Some German surnames were never meant as names. They were meant as insults, handed out by the neighbors who watched them drink, stumble, and complain every single day. If the joke was good enough, it became the name. Then the children carried it. Some of those insults are still printed on American mailboxes right now. If your surname is on this list, someone, around the year 1350, was laughing at your ancestor. Here are 15 of those names, counted down to one insult that turned into something no one saw coming. We start with a name that proves this list is not exaggerating. Imagine a man who never missed a round at the village tavern, and imagine his neighbors deciding that this, of all things, was how he should be remembered forever. His name became Schluckebier. It is built from two plain German words, schlucken, to gulp, and beer, beer. The gulp, the beer man. Nickname surnames like this one hardened into permanent family names in the late Middle Ages, when villages needed to tell their many Hanses and Heinrichs apart, and a good joke stuck better than a trade. The record trail runs through Westphalia and Hesse, and it did not stay there. Schluckebier families crossed the Atlantic in the 1800s, and the name is still carried in German-American communities today. 7 centuries later, the tavern is gone, and the name ordered another round. It was not the only drinking joke that survived. Remember this one. It gets company later in the countdown. From the rarest kind of mockery to one of the most common German surnames in America. If your name is Krauss, or Krauss without the E, the teasing was gentler, but it was still teasing. The name comes from the Middle High German word Kruss, meaning curly. It was pinned on the man with the wild, unruly head of hair, the one no comb could tame. In old town registers, this was often the only description that mattered. Not his trade, not his father, just the hair. Hundreds of thousands of Americans carry Krauss and its spellings today, which means the most successful insult on this list is also the mildest one. If this is your name, your ancestor's hair outlived every empire he ever paid taxes to. The next name was less kind. It was aimed at how a man moved. Some names described what your ancestor did. This one described what he was like to stand next to. Klotz means a block, a raw lump of wood, and as a nickname, it meant exactly what it means today. The clumsy one, the heavy one, the man who moved through a doorway like furniture. It is blunt, it is physical, and in the registers of southern Germany, it stuck to families who then carried it into Pennsylvania, Ohio, and the Midwest. Here is the thing about a name like Klotz. Nobody chose it, and nobody could shake it. And that is true of every name still to come. If you are enjoying this, subscribe, because this channel decodes names like yours every week. And stay for number 1, because it is the only name on this list that started as an insult and ended as a blessing. The next entry was aimed at a man's body in a much harsher time. In a village where the harvest decided who lived until spring, being thin was not a lifestyle, it was a verdict. The name Dürr comes from the German word for dry, withered, gaunt. It marked the lean man, and in the hungriest decades of the Middle Ages, that word carried an edge that is hard to feel today. Spellings shifted as families moved. Dürr, Dürr, and Dor all appear in American records. And here is the inversion this list keeps delivering. A name that once meant scarcity is now carried by engineers, professors, and one of Germany's best-known industrial firms. The withered one built things that lasted. The next name is stranger. It accused an entire family of refusing to do the one job everyone had. Every village had one family like this, and one village made sure everyone would know forever. The name is Hassenpflug, and it translates with almost no assembly required. Hate the plow. It was pinned on the farmer who despised farming, the man who found any reason to be somewhere else when the fields needed him. It is a Hessian name, and here is the twist the mockers never saw coming. In the early 1800s, a Hassenpflug family in Kassel sat in parlors telling old folk tales to two young scholars who were collecting them. Some of the stories the world now reads to its children passed through the mouths of a family named Hate the Plow. Keep those two scholars in mind. Their own name is waiting further up this countdown. First, a name about a mood. You know this word even if you speak no German. Sauer means sour, and as a surname it most often pointed at temperament. The bitter neighbor. The man who greeted good news like a tax notice. Most often, but not always, and this is worth saying carefully. In some regions, the records point instead to sour marshy ground, a farm on acidic soil, and in a few cases to families living near the river Sauer. So if this is your name, the majority reading says your ancestor was the village Grump, and the minority reading says he just had bad land. Either way, the name endured on farmers, on craftsmen, and on one of the oldest gun-making houses in Germany. Next, a name for the one who could not sit still. Some families were mocked for what they did. This family was mocked for what they couldn't stop doing. Unruh means unrest, restlessness. As a nickname, it marked the agitator, the fidgeter, the one who stirred the pot at every village meeting. The name became common among German Mennonites, and their migrations dragged it across half the planet, from Prussia to the Russian steppe, and from there to Kansas and the Dakotas in the 1870s. A name meaning unrest could not have chosen a more fitting family. It never stayed anywhere, and German gave the word one more twist. In a mechanical watch, the part that swings back and forth without ever resting is called the Unruh. The restless one became the heartbeat of every clock. Halfway now, and the next name built the most famous bookshelf on Earth. Number 8 is the proof of what this whole list is about. Grim was not a compliment. It comes from a word meaning fierce, wrathful, grim-tempered, and it was hung on men whose anger arrived before they did. For centuries, it was just that. A note about a temper, passed from father to son. Then 2 brothers from Hesse, Jakob and Wilhelm, went collecting folk tales, some of them from the Hassenpflug family. You met at number 11 and published them in 1812. Today, the angriest nickname on this list is the most beloved name in world storytelling. Nobody hears Grim and thinks of a furious ancestor. The insult did not just fade, it was overwritten. Hold that thought, because number 1 goes one step further. An insult that time turned into an actual blessing. We are not there yet. The next name is short, blunt, and rude on purpose. Some etymologies need careful unpacking. This one needs none. Grob means coarse, rough, rude. It is still an everyday German word, and if someone calls you Grob today, you have been insulted in exactly the way your ancestor was insulted 600 years ago. The name marked crude manners, rough speech, a heavy hand. What makes Grob remarkable is its honesty across time. Most insult names softened or drifted in meaning, but this one still says today precisely what the village meant then. Families named Grob farmed, traded, emigrated, and simply refused to be embarrassed out of their own name. There is a lesson in that. The next name, though, might be the most theatrical insult in all of Germany. Picture the village square on market day, and picture the one man who is not buying, not selling, just standing there with his mouth open, watching. German has an entire idiom for him. Maulaffen feilhalten, holding gapers for sale, meaning to stand around gawking while the world works. And some families carry him in their name. Maulaff, the gaper, the slack-jawed spectator of other people's labor. It is a rare name today, one of the rarest on this list, and every record of it is a small monument to a man who could not stop staring. If you have ever met a Maulaff or carry the name yourself, know that it survived, while far gentler names vanished. Sometimes the sharpest joke is the most durable one. Next, a name about a body that bent. Krumb means crooked, bent. As a nickname, it usually pointed at posture, the stooped man, bent by work, by age, or from birth. That is the majority reading. In some records, it instead described where a family lived, at the crook of a lane or a bend in the stream. And honest decoding means telling you both. Krumb crossed the ocean early, and American clerks flattened it into Krumb and Krumb in many families, which means some of you carry this name right now, without a single letter matching. If your family tree has a Krumb in Pennsylvania or Ohio, the trail may run straight back to a bent-backed villager who outworked everyone who laughed at him. 2 drinking men entered this list. It is time for the second one. At number 15, a man was named for gulping beer. He was not alone. Trinkus is an imperative sentence frozen into a surname. Drink it up. Drain the cup. It belongs to the same family of Tavern mockery, the kind of name a village awarded at closing time. And then history delivered one of its favorite jokes in reverse. In the 1800s, the name Trinkus rose over the doors of a private bank in Düsseldorf, and for more than a century it stood among the most respected names in German finance. The Drink It Up family ended up counting other people's money, soberly, behind marble. If your surname came from mockery, take notes. The podium is next, and it opens with the pettiest insult on the entire list. Number 3 did not mock a body or a temper. It mocked a wallet. Schimmelpfennig is built from Schimmel, mold, and Pfennigpenny, the man whose coins grew mold because he never ever spent one. An entire family branded as misers, forever, and the name marched straight into American history. In the Civil War, a Union general named Alexander Schimmelpfennig, one letter astray from the original, fought at Gettysburg, where he spent 3 days hidden behind enemy lines and lived to fight again. The story goes that President Lincoln valued him partly because a name that unmistakably German would rally German-American volunteers to the recruiting posters. The moldy penny name helped fill regiments. Number 2 is the most common name remaining, and it is the one many of you have been waiting for. If your name is Klein, the village was talking about size. Klein means small, and as a nickname it marked the short one, sometimes gently, sometimes not. But careful decoding cuts both ways. In many records, Klein was not mockery at all, just bookkeeping, used to tell a younger man from an older one who shared his first name. Small Hans, as opposed to Big Hans. So this name sits somewhere between a tease and a label, and only your own family's paper trail can say which one you inherited. What is certain is the scale of the inversion. A name meaning small became one of the most common German surnames in America, and in the 1900s, It climbed onto billboards in every city on Earth as a global fashion empire. Small never stood so tall. And now, number 1. Every name so far was a joke at someone's expense. The last one started that way too. Ohnesorge in the north, often spelled Ohnesorge, translates literally without care, without worry. In a medieval village where everyone worried about frost, plague, rent and rain, the man without a care in the world was not admired. He was mocked. The carefree one, the one who whistled while everyone else counted sacks of grain. But language kept moving, and the joke did not survive the journey. Ohnesorge came to mean something else entirely, free of sorrow. Prussian kings put the French version, sans souci, above the door of a palace. A famous theater in Hamburg carries the name Ohnesorge to this day. The insult became a wish, the kind you would write inside a birthday card. 700 years of laughter, and the last laugh belongs to the family. 15 names, 15 jokes that outlived the jokers, and every one of them survived because a family refused to put it down. If your surname was on this list, your ancestors were mocked, and they answered by simply continuing to exist. That is its own kind of victory. Tell us where you're listening from, and which surname you'd like decoded, and the best ones go on the research list. New names are decoded here every week. You are named by history.